Hello and welcome to the all-new Put a Ring on It After Show. My name is Christal Jordan, and every week we are going to be recapping the show with all the biggest moments from Put a Ring on It during your lunch hour. So thank you so much for joining us. We have to welcome, of course, our host for the show, Kojo from Little Black Book 91. And this conversation would be nothing without dating master coach, Dr. Nicole.
Hi, everybody.
Now, on top of us, we definitely need you all to give us your comments. These conversations are made key by the comments that you have, so make sure you keep that chat going.
Good stuff.
Well, it was another explosive episode, as you can say. We got to see a little bit more between Shorty and Kenneth. Quite some interesting conversations going on the back of the date with Hollywood. We also got to see a little bit more with Shay and her concerns with Alfonso. There's a bit of a trust situation going on there. And then we got to see another interesting dialogue with Dr. Nicole and Otis. I don't know if she's his greatest fan just yet, but another great episode to dive into today.
I love Otis.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I like Otis too. Listen, I like Otis. He's a straight shooter. I'll be honest with you, he's a straight shooter. And I'm looking forward to seeing his journey go along as well. So hopefully we'll get to see more progression. And I know Dr. Nicole, you would work your magic through him. But before we go to Otis, let's stick to Shay and to Alfonso. And let's get a little bit more of their particular relationship. Dr. Nicole, you had the opportunity to privately coach this couple as well, and we got to see a little bit more in terms of their relationship dynamics and what's going on in that particular situation. How about we roll the clip a little bit?
You want to clean up now because somebody's coming over. You don't clean up when I'm here by myself.
I always clean up behind you, and that's exactly what you do. You sit there and you drink and you eat like I'm the maid. Going into this couple session, I really want to talk to Dr. Nicole about our trust issues a little bit more in detail, because I definitely feel the area of trust is something that we're here to work on. I'm really ready to air this thing out. Hi. Good. How are you? Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Yes,
I heard y'all laughing.
So that's a very good thing.
That's a good start, right? That's a good start.
Yes, it is.
Please have a seat.
How y'all?
Good.
How was everything for you guys after the session? Talk to me about where you are.
My problem is more so that I don't have a sense of security in how he handles situations. And that presents the distrust. That presents to me it's just a big insecurity.
Well, the issues that we having is trust, because the job I do, which is in the entertainment business, I help manage Rick Ross. So there's a lot of females around, so she feels like I'm very untrustworthy when it comes to other females.
We've had situations, and it's kind of like how he's dealt with the family, where he just allows things to play out. And I really shouldn't have anything to say, because in his eyes, I don't have proof, no matter how it's portrayed. So if a woman contacts me in any kind of way, he's like, oh, it's not true, it's not this. But if you're out communicating with different women and they have full access to you at any point in time, and you don't see that as a problem, then if it was the shoe was on the other foot and it was a man, how would you feel? At this point, I'm trying to keep my composure. I'm really trying to hold it together, but it's bothering me. I don't want to be in a situation or get married to a man who doesn't take infidelity serious, who's going to entertain other women. So yes, I'm hurt at this moment.
Ooh, okay. So, okay. This onion the layers continue to be pulled back with these two. Last week, we thought that it was because of the fact that, he had this ex that had a relationship with his family, and that was the major problem. And now we're hearing that not only is there an ex that is still very much a part of his life in inappropriate ways, but also there are other women, because he works in the entertainment industry. And I've been an entertainment publicist for years. I know what that looks like. When he said that he works with Rick Ross, you already know, which we kind of could see that he's dressed a little bit like Rick Ross, but okay, just saw that a little bit with the shirt open. But now we see that it's not, the issue is not the relationship with his family. It's just boundaries all across the board. Because if women are coming up, she said women are reaching out to her, telling her things. It just seems the problems are much deeper than were initially brought to the table when they sat down. So this conversation was eye-opening, and it made me kind of feel like it's not just that one issue. It really is just the nature of this relationship. He does not take this. They just aren't on the same page at all.
Kojo, what do you think? Because he was ready. He was ready. Did you see him, Christal? He's like, yeah, Dr. Nicole, what do you think about that? I'm like, beat you to the punch. What do you think about that, Kojo?
Oh, let me go to my notes again. You know what? No, in all honesty, I think this is such a interesting dynamic between Shay and Alfonso, because I think we said last week about the passivity with the boundaries and how that will begin to affect not just the family issue, but it affects generally all around. I think with the Alfonso situation, we'll talk from a male perspective and say that, sometimes, and this might be or might not be the case for him, sometimes we use other women as our cloak for invulnerability. What I mean by that is sometimes we struggle to be vulnerable. And we know that if we become vulnerable, it leaves us exposed. Having an ex, having women that seemingly like us, but we're not going to do anything with them, becomes a cloak for a lot of men to actually become invulnerable. So what I mean by that is, now the girl is feeling some type of way about that woman, it means I don't have to really be completely vulnerable with you. I have this cloak, and it keeps a distance between me and you at a certain range, meaning I don't fall too deep and I don't fall prey to falling, too deeply in love with you. I definitely believe he cares for her. I definitely believe he wants to be in a relationship with her. But I think he's working on his own issues of being unable to fully let himself go. A lot of men get this. They struggle to, give themselves fully to a woman, because it's scary falling in love and giving you the ability to have my heart in your hands and at any moment being able to crush it like that. Us men are very fragile, we're very fragile with those kind of things. As much as we talk about women, we are very fragile, very scared of being broken in two by someone else. And oftentimes that comes from when we didn't have power in our childhood, we tried to find it elsewhere. And we don't want to give anybody else opportunity to hurt us. So I think there's a lack of him giving a surety to Shay. He should be doing this, but he's not. And it's maybe because, again, going back to that same question, do you know how to do this, Alfonso? Do you know how to create good boundaries? And do you know how to assure your woman that she's in good company, in good stead? He definitely loves her and cares for her, I can see. But I don't know if he definitely knows how to create those boundaries and show her, listen, when I'm with Rick Ross and them mans, I still think about you, not other women, okay? Yeah, that's my thoughts.
I love that. I love what you're both saying, because, again, the great thing about the show is we get to see ourselves, right? We get to see what relationships are looking like in so many different people's homes. There is a difference between covering and a barrier, right? So when we're talking about vulnerability, we're really talking about connection.
Yeah.
And the greatest privilege you have as another person is the type of access that will afford you the opportunity to hurt me, and you choose not to. You choose to protect me. You choose to cover me, and you choose to be in a space of, I know the power and privilege of you being connected to me and me being connected to you without a barrier. So in that space of power, what I provide is a covering that has both of us under it versus a barrier that has you on one side and me on the other. Does that make sense? It's a total different thing, right? When men can really understand the power that they have to cover, it gives them the opportunity to recognize, even if someone tries to infiltrate that covering, their response to that infiltration attempt keeps everybody safe and covered.
Hmm.
Right? So something as little as, someone asked you, I think one of the examples on the episode was asking for money.
Yes.
Right?
It was.
If you feel you must, I can't tell anybody what to do with their money, but what I can say is, where is the transaction in your covering responsibility? Then you can give it to your woman and say, I really feel like I'm supposed to bless this person. Hey, babe, can you give her this blessing from us? Do you see how one is a barrier? I'm giving this woman something. I've not identified who she is. I've not identified who you are. And I'm having a transaction that's going to create a barrier and distance between us. Because it's got too much mystery to it. It doesn't have the feeling of protection. It has the feeling of someone is now accessing me that I don't even know because of something that you're doing.
Yeah.
Versus saying, she just asked me for money. I don't know why. I feel like I should give it to her. Babe, can you give this to her and just tell her be well? Right? Now that's strange to a lot of people, right? But you can't decide what the person chooses to do, but how they do it either brings the feeling of we're in this together or we're not. You notice I'm not taking away his decision to do this. Not my job. My job is the relationship. Does the action protect the relationship, or does the action put the relationship in some level of compromise? Now, notice I don't use the word vulnerability because people use the word wrong, right? They're like, that makes me vulnerable. Vulnerability is connection. You can't do anything without it. There's nothing meaningful you're going to do without that. You can't do purpose, can't do service, can't do excellence. You got to connect. But there are things you can do that will immediately seem to put things in jeopardy because you're giving someone access that you don't know their intention, you don't know their role, they're not clearly identified, and they're not supposed to be under this covering because we haven't agreed that they can be under here with us.
Dr. Nicole, I'm okay being the petty one of this group. I'm
please be it. Please be
it.
So, but you cute. I'm
going to be, Kojo is coming from the very side. I'm okay being the petty one right now. So listening to that conversation, I want to ask you, in the first recap, you mentioned a toolbox and and it doesn't seem like Fonzo has a lot of tools. It seems like he just doesn't really, when it comes to how he interacts with family or other people, he seems like a really nice guy that just, she actually mentions in that session with you all that, girls will come and say, get Fonzo, get Fonzo. They know that he's a nice guy. They know that he's a very giving person and that he just seems like that good guy that people would rely on. Is there a difference between women that are coming up to him and asking for things that he may want to bless, and if these are other women that he's in relationship with? Because it sounded like these may be women that that the boundaries are not clear, at least from the way she put it. Like if they are coming up and then she's being, people are in her DMs talking about what they've done with her guy, and they live together. That puts a total different, level on the relationship. How do you navigate those waters if these are women that he's interacting with, outside of what she would deem appropriate?
Any freeway that does not have guidelines becomes a potential danger zone for anybody that's on it.
Okay.
Period. Any freeway. Because the median gives you a guide, The lines give you a guide. The speed limit gives you a guide. The signs that tell you what exits these are give you a guide. All of it is to make sure everyone on the freeway can get to their destination safely, because if you follow the guides help you go where you say you want to go, right? Just as an analogy. It's not, we can always put it on people that are violating, right? But their violation is only to the extent that your boundaries and guides are clear and enforced, right? So absolutely, I could focus on the women. We could all focus on the women and what their intentions are, and what they're doing and what they're saying and what they want and what they need and who he works for. Doesn't matter. If you have boundaries, you enforce your boundaries, and you use your boundaries as a guide, people will pay attention to how to navigate that freeway, or they understand there are levels of infractions. You may get points, you may get tickets, you may get the license revoked. But that's on a freeway where there's enforcement of the guide, right? Now, here's the thing. I never think it's a benefit for us to villainize anybody about these boundaries, because some of us don't have boundaries with our family. Come on, right? This person, you know, they're never going to pay you back. Ever. Kojo, not never.
I know the ones.
Not never.
Not when the taxes come,
Christal, not never.
Taxes come in,
Right.
not never.
Right. And we will look at someone like Fonzo and say, you really got to fix this. But then we'll turn right around, and the person that we love, that we don't want to disappoint, or we have a disease to please, we don't have any boundaries with them, right? So it's kind of like in this relationship conversation, what I love about the show is, if you look closely, we're not just talking about romance. Romance is the highlight reel, right? Because it's put a ring on it. But look at what he's experiencing with his family, right? He's experiencing the same thing because they're on the same freeway.
Yeah.
No signs, no speed limit, no lines. So everybody's just lane violating, right? Women are lane violating. Brothers might be lane violating. Yo, bro, hook a brother up with a gig. Hook a brother up, right? Families lane violating. Everybody's just crashing into each other. And that's going to happen if you don't have boundaries.
Just quickly add as well. So we talk a lot on our YouTube channel about I coined it nice guy versus good guy, right? Because the difference usually is boundaries. The nice guy wants to be liked, because oftentimes what's happening is a person is determining an action as them equating to being a good person or a bad person, and that's very difficult for the person to. So when a request comes through, the way their mind is working is, if I deny it, I'm a bad person. Whenever you're in that scope of thinking, you will rarely have any good boundaries, because you'll think nobody wants to be a bad person. All right. And we want to be liked, and we want to be right. So, you know, as a human being, it's very difficult to create good boundaries when your mindset is, if I deny a request, I'm now a bad person. And so I think that's what I'm seeing with Alfonso as well, that there's that difficulty of putting that boundary across, because I don't want to be a bad person. He's just a calm, nice dude. I don't want problems. I don't want trouble. You know, I just want peace. But the problem is, again, peace can only, you know, there's a good story that says, you know, peace was fought for. So sometimes you want peace, but you haven't fought for the peace that you're requiring. And that comes through building these boundaries. My last point on this is, that, you know, in order to deal with these boundaries, one, obviously, yes, enforce them, but you might want to look back into the root causes, how we got here. And oftentimes when we get back to the root cause in terms of how we've experienced things in our family, that often is where we can start and actually start unpicking some of those things to help us get further along, as Dr. Nicole would say, the freeway, so we can know what the rules are.
Because here's the thing, I love that you said that. If you don't fight for your peace, you will have pieces.
Oh, say that again, Dr. Nicole. Let me just write that down.
You will have pieces. And trust and believe. It is so much more fruitful, purposeful, healthy to be in peace than in pieces.
Yeah.
Right? So everyone will adjust. You'll be surprised. As much as you might want to speed on the freeway, you are so glad that there is a sign.
Yeah.
Tells you what to do. So that structure that helps you navigate how to move, even if you don't like it, you appreciate it, because over time it helps you figure out where you are, what the value of this process is, and how to move in it. If you don't have anything, I mean, you know that the risk has just gone through the roof.
Yeah.
You know it. And now you're trying to just navigate safety in this dynamic. So for everybody, all of our folks that are watching, it's so important, and it's going to bless you. It might not be easy at first because you got to manage yourself.
Yeah.
In your no, right, Christal? When somebody asks you, you've got to manage how you're feeling in your answer before they even respond to it. But once you get that momentum and you recognize, oh, they still love me. They might be a little mad for a second, but we're still good. It makes everything easier.
Well, I feel like Shay and Alfonso are on the highway and they are riding the rumble strip. Like it's like the entire, it just doesn't seem like there's any smoothness to this relationship. It seems very just constantly a bumpy ride, but I look forward to seeing what happens, and hopefully they can get some peace, some fought for peace. But the next couple that we are going to talk about is Kenneth and Shorty. Now we've seen Kenneth kind of struggle with the idea of going out with other women. However, we introduced one of Shorty's colleagues and he seemed to be a little bit more confident and a little bit more relaxed with the date. Let's check out this clip.
Hi.
Myasia.
What? What is going on?
What is really going on?
How are you? It's been years.
It has been.
This
crazy.
is awkward. I ain't gonna lie, it's awkward.
Definitely an awkward reunion, to say the least.
Right.
Come on in though.
Okay.
Jesus take the wheel when I open up the door. And it's a woman who I know. Not just a woman who I know, a woman who I worked with. My former morning show intern is about to take my man out. What in the world is going on? So I definitely wasn't expecting to see you. Were you expecting to see me?
I don't know what's going on. I just know there's supposed to be a fine man and I'm supposed to be taking him on a date, and then boom, it's your man.
Exactly. I don't know if I feel better or worse that it's you.
Right.
I don't know.
Myasia cool and all. She pretty, got good personality, just very lively and stuff. It's just, I'm just tripping right now. Like, how y'all know each other?
We used to work together.
What?
Yeah.
We go back. I mean, we know each other, so
yeah.
I think that it's one of those things where I don't want to say may the best woman win, but I definitely feel like we'll see where it goes.
For sure. This chick told me, let the best woman win.
Hopefully he makes it back.
Ah, okay, I like that. All right, challenge. So, I mean, does she feel like she got a point to prove? Do I need to be worried? Y'all have fun.
Hey, I always wanted to ride in one of these.
You've never seen a pretty girl in a slingshot, huh?
My.
Petty.
My. Okay.
Pet. Now, Pet, I mean, oh my gosh. I don't know who did the casting with this, but as the petty member of the council, I don't think anything could be as uncomfortable as your former intern taking out your guy like that. That was a lot. It was good, but it was a lot. But the interesting thing was Kenneth and this young lady, actually, to me, they seem to be a lot more like, to me, Shorty and Kenneth don't seem to necessarily be on the same page. They seem to be a little unequally yoked in the way they handle themselves and the way they talk. And Kenneth seems to be constantly trying to like get to Shorty's level. On this date, it seemed like he could relax. It seemed like they were mano a mano. I actually liked it. I thought it was a little petty because it was her intern, but they did seem a lot more suitably matched. So unfortunately, I kind of liked it.
It was good to see him have fun.
Yeah.
That's what I enjoyed watching it. I was like, okay, he's having a good time. We get to see some levity from Kenneth. We get to see him having a moment where it doesn't seem like he's hyper focused on loss or the potential for loss.
Yes.
He's just in the moment. And you know, I think that was a good thing to see.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, Kojo?
I mean, first of all, my Asia might have to be changed her name to My Pressure, because she came in like she was coming not only for a man, but she was coming in for her master's job. I'm just confused why she came in with so much heat. Sis, like, you know, I listen, I'm here for the confidence. I just had a little bit of a triggering moment. It reminded me of Kai. I'm just going to say, it just reminded me of that again. I was like,
really?
So, yeah, that energy, the taking, no, not the bad one, the taking, the coming in there and saying, I'm going to take your man kind of thing. That's what I was talking about. But in all honesty, I think the date between herself and Kenneth, again, I think it was good for him as well. I think he was able to open up. She's got a lot of energy. She's able to be quite extroverted in his presence. They're both Geminis. And so it seemed like they were just kind of, you know, kicking it off and really getting to know one another. The crab eating was pretty cool as well. And I didn't get to see that, but, you know, this was all that was happening on the date.
You think she came in that hot? You think
Baby,
came in that hot?
Dr. Nicole, she came in hotter than Ghost Chili Pepper. I'm saying she came in hot. Baby, you know this person. Like, it's the confidence for me. Listen, I'm all about the confidence. But it was just like, sis, you also know her. So, like, may the best woman win. I was like,
So here's the thing that I think is funny, right? When we see the guys do these power plays on the intro, right? And they are setting tone for territory. They are doing what they do, right? Lower register, on the hello, you know, all that stuff.
Yeah.
We don't say anything, and what usually comes out is, I understand. I mean, this person is coming to take his woman out on a date.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, it seems so interesting when the women do something similar. The guys are like, she coming in hot. Oh my God, what is happening? I'm like,
Dr. Nicole.
a little double standard.
listen, we us as men, we want to lie to ourselves, okay? You come in hot like that's not even giving me a chance to even fall into the trap. You're making it bait. You need to let me fall into the trap. I want you to come in there subtly and let me fall into the trap. It's called seduction. With that, what you're doing right now, you're making it too obvious to the world. Baby, chill. Bring a little bit of subtleness. Let me fall into the trap. Because nobody wants to make it obvious.
Was it for him? Was that for him, or was that for the other woman? Because let's be fair. When the guys do it, they're not doing it for the woman. They're doing it to the man. And they're doing it for him. They are marking territory.
Exactly.
Right? Which is not extremely polite, but that's what they're doing. So when the women do it, the women are not usually doing it for the man. They're doing it for the woman. Right. Is that unacceptable in the female form?
No, I don't think it's unacceptable. I'm just saying from a male perspective, I'm going to do this madness. Don't do this obvious. Let me fall into it. I want to lie to myself. Don't make it obvious. Make me fall into it. That's what I'm saying. You know. But I hear what you're saying.
Do you think? I thought that Kenneth actually responded really well to her, and I think because he kind of has a passive energy, and I don't think that she was forceful. I don't necessarily think she came in hot. I think she's adorable. And she was like,
She
you
is.
know, I don't think it was confrontational at all. That's another thing. I like the way she handled it. Now that had to be difficult for her to go in, and that was her boss. Like, that's a big deal. She was her intern. So I think she was just trying to make the best of the situation. And she was flirty and fun. I like the pretty girl in the slingshot, definitely confidence, but I don't think that she was overly aggressive or anything. I think that she just was trying to make the most of it. And she's a little bit, you know, she's flirty, and they had a good time. I thought it was cute. And I also thought that Shorty did a great job. She handled it well, you know, even though she was afterwards like, wait a minute, she said, you know, may the best woman win, but she was gracious. I thought it was really cute, and definitely different than some of the other dates that we've seen from the other couples.
Fair point. Wait, just to add then, okay, maybe not this particular part, because another part that's really intriguing me. Shorty went on a date with Hollywood.
Yeah.
And Hollywood said some things, okay, that if Kenneth heard, he gonna be hurt. I mean, because he was laying the law down to Shorty. So I wanted to get you guys, I say you guys, but you ladies' thoughts on that, you know, because that conversation was also quite an important one, because he was letting her know if a man ain't getting these boundaries, if he's not getting told what he needs to do, you know, you might need to cut him loose.
The product don't stay on the shelf long. He was definitely giving her putting some things in her head, and the whole puppy on the
he threw him under the bus with that one. Yeah.
What? Yeah. What did you think of that? What did you think of Hollywood's analogies, Dr. Nicole?
Mm-hmm.
Well, again, it's interesting because when we look at it in the female form,
yeah,
we see something very different.
Yes.
Right? What we know is if you want to change something, administer medium pressure. Whatever that is.
Yes.
Medium pressure is going to get you the most likelihood to shift something, right? So Hollywood is shooting his shot by putting the focus on what you may not have with the guy that you're with that I got on lock.
Yeah.
Right? He's not saying that, but he's putting that pressure to say, I need you to see some comparisons here. And I'm going to position that so that you see me in a more elevated light.
Yeah.
Myasia seemed to have done the same thing in the female form. She said, I'm making it hard for you.
Yes.
Even if it's not hard for you, I'm saying that. I'm implying that because I want just enough pressure for you to see me in a comparative space. Is it really that different?
I'm here for it. I'm here for Myasia. I thought it was awesome. And like you said, I love seeing Kenneth just kind of exhale. I feel like he's always trying to prove. And this was fun, just get in the slingshot and just have a good time. It doesn't, it shouldn't be that difficult. If it's difficult, then maybe it's not the right one. And it's not unlike Shorty and Hollywood, it feels very consistent.
And they're both, whatever the energy is, the dates are very comfortable, Hollywood and Myasia, saying, this is what you have in me.
Yeah.
That I'm not convinced you have in the other person. Isn't it interesting that they're both coming from that place? Every date doesn't come from that place, but they're both coming from that place, which makes you say, what's the energy in the core relationship that's pulling from that same energy on their dates?
True, because actually, Dr. Nicole, Shorty was really like in that conversation with Hollywood, she almost affirmed what he was subtly hinting. She was very, I can't imagine how, Kenneth felt watching that date later, because Hollywood would throw something out, she would immediately pick it up and was confirming everything. So again, I love the comparison between the two. They're definitely parallel, but we'll see what happens.
I mean, she was already halfway gone, weren't she? Really, let's be honest. If I start throwing innuendo when we talk about dark arts, men trying to unlock relationships. If I can throw an innuendo your way and you're picking it up, which was the last day, not the state, but the one before that, and you pick it up, you halfway along my highway. So, I'm not surprised that she picked up some more cards on this time round.
Just
when
throwing out bait. Just throwing out bait, huh?
You have to see what they're going to pick up. You know what I'm saying? If it responds, so,
Draw some more.
Mm-hmm.
Hollywood has a lot of
hold
bait.
on tight.
Hollywood has a lot of bait. That
He's a handsome guy. He's
those
charming.
arms.
I love
Hollywood.
Mr.
Mr. Hollywood.
He's not Hollywood. He's always gonna get that from me. But yeah, he is something.
Yeah, he's a lot. Well, those relationships are one thing, but we had the opportunity to witness a really uncomfortable conversation during the group therapy session with Otis and Charlie. Now, this is where, Dr. Nicole, you took off your group coaching hat and you had to go in with the coaching. So let's check out this clip with Charlie and Otis, and then Dr. Nicole, help us figure out what's going on with this relationship.
How was the date?
She was a cool person, decent energy as far as she's a positive girl. Conversation was cool. I like that she had a traditional foundation. I would say I'm traditional in foundation.
Okay.
But the way we function, it's been closer to 50-50 in my opinion.
What does that mean when you say in foundation?
I'm willing to take on more if I need to and just make it easier for her. I think she likes the 50-50 thing a lot more than I do. And I like making her life easier.
He likes to take control, period, in most situations. Maybe it is a traditional thing too, like just having the control. And when it comes to listening and letting me, get my point across and hearing me, we're still working in that area for sure.
Sometimes it seems like Charlie wants it both ways. Like she wants to be the sweet, submissive girl and all the benefits that come with that. And out of nowhere, she will try to be more in charge. And that has caused a lot of conflict.
I have heard that I'm not gonna talk about this anymore and this is what it is. And I don't accept it.
In some of these power dynamics, the question becomes, do you allow your partner to influence you enough to be willing to have a different perspective? Or is it where I started is where I'm gonna end, so this is it? Because at that space, where do you go?
I think sometimes his traditionalism could possibly cause an issue with our communication. I think that we both need another perspective. So if we have that, I don't see how it couldn't help us.
Dr. Nicole.
Don't ask me. Where is she? I don't know.
Did you all catch when he said she tries to take control sometime and that doesn't work out really well? Is Otis aware of how he comes off? That's my biggest question is he aware? Because a lot of times he will say things that make it very clear. You can even watch the body language of the rest of the group and see that the guys are looking off because they know that just sounds very unhealthy at the very least. It sounds unhealthy. So do you believe that Otis is aware of what he's saying and what that actually means? Because he seems a bit unaware, but yet the words that come out of his mouth are so, it tells the story more than even what Charlie tells us.
I love that you talk about the group, right? Because the greatest power that we have in relationships is our ability to see ourselves. Now, mind you, that's not what most people want to see as the greatest power. What they want to see as the greatest power is the ability to change the other person.
Yes.
So the easiest way to feel powerless is to put the success off on what the other person needs to do. Because you can't make them do anything. So one of the things that we see sometimes in the frame with Otis is that other people are recognizing that he may not see himself. He may not be as self-aware as he may desire to be, right? I don't think he desires to not be self-aware. But I think what you end up seeing is there's a chasm, there's a gap between where he thinks he is and where he actually is because of what he says and what he's not able to hear. It's that exchange. He says certain things, but he's not able to receive bits of information that can influence his growth to be able to see something new. Right? So that's not unusual. We know a lot of people in our lives, good people, great people, but where they start and whatever their truth is what their truth is, and they believe that truth is universal. And then if you try to give them a context to help them understand that that truth may not be universal, it may not be a fact, it may just be their feeling, they just can't receive that information. What they do is then they become defensive or they shut down, because whatever is real for me in this moment is real for everybody. That's just a sign that they're not able to be really self-aware and see how they fit. And that can cause some real problems in a relationship. Huge.
I think with Otis, what we're seeing with Otis and Charlie are numerous things happening. But I want to talk from, again, the male perspective here. I think earlier on, before that, even that clip is shown, we hear Charlie saying, he withheld information about his particular date, whereas he asked for her to share that piece of information to him. And, I think what we're seeing, and I think you've mentioned it on the show as well, Dr. Nicole, is the power grab between the two of them. We've got a power fight going on, and I think that's really encapsulated as well by what Otis kind of said. Otis said, when he was talking about the scolding issue, he said, "Listen, she has her self-awareness, but she doesn't see that she doesn't take accountability." Then he went on to say about how she's almost childlike, and I said, "Oh, what if she's childlike, sir? What does that make you?" The parent. And I think that's what happens sometimes as men. When I always say this as well, when there's a loss of control somewhere in your early life, you try to implement it elsewhere as you get older. I think he sees himself as a captain and, maybe doesn't necessarily trust another person as much as he trusts himself to guide the ship to where it needs to get to, not realizing it takes a whole crew to get the ship across the sea. It doesn't just take the captain. And so I think he's trying to wrestle with the image that's inside of his mind, which we all do. We have an image of what we see our relationships to be like due to how we've grown up and what we've experienced. And it's being challenged in bits and parts by Charlie, trying to, raise her voice and say, hey, no, that's not how I see things. I see the image slightly different to how you see it. And it becomes very difficult to accept what she's saying because of the way he perceives her. I'm not saying that he sees her necessarily as an absolute child, but in part, he does see her as somebody who's not capable to take the reins as he does. He sees it as, this is a man's role. This is meant to be my position. Hey, you just sit back. I want to take care of you. And part of it is really good. But the other part is that it leads to control because you don't want another person to be able to have a say so in what you're saying. Thus, then the person feels like they're being, boxed in. And they're not being able to contribute towards the direction of the relationship. I believe men should lead a relationship always. I always believe that. But, as a captain, it's not that nobody else has a say so. A captain can't see everything around him. He works with people alongside him too to see, hey, is there something that we can do better? Is there something we can improve on? And I'm not seeing all of that with Otis just yet. I think he's finding it hard to be open to that type of injection of commentary from Charlie just yet. I think he's willing to, but I just think that he doesn't know how to do that just yet.
Well, it's interesting because in any relationship, even if you look at, a leader in a job perspective, the greatest of those are the ones that can harness the gifts and talents of their team so that the genius of those who they are in some way responsible for can come forward, right? So if it is just about them being in the power seat, but they are not able to harness the genius of the team, then what do you really have? What is the development track? What is the ability to give people the opportunity to grow? What is the ability to show their genius and cultivate that genius in different ways and in different spaces? That is not just being in a title chair, right? It looks different. So in relationship, one of the things that is important is the ability to give everyone that is in that relationship the opportunity to be fully themselves and to support the best that is possible and to support unlimited potential, right? When you don't have that and you're not growing with that, anything that is not growing is dying, period. So then what do you have after a while, right? So it's going to be interesting to see how this couple moves and grows over the season, and if they'll be willing to let both of them have the space to nurture the relationship, or what will it look like if they don't?
Otis seems afraid to me. I get a fierce desperation to remain in control. And I don't know where, I mean, hopefully we'll see where that root is, or he hopefully can do that work. But it feels so apparent that he is afraid that if he is not this traditional man that is the leader, and which is nothing wrong with that, but it's taken it to an extreme that feels like it's exaggerated, right? Like it just feels it feels motivated by fear and desperation. So I don't know, like I said, where that comes from for so a lot of the words that he uses, like Kojo mentioned earlier, like scolding and childlike, there's something else going on with him, or maybe he doesn't feel, at some point he did not feel secure. And this is his way of trying to assert that over Charlie to really be over, himself. It's something else going on with him.
Well, it's not leadership, right, sis? So one of the things that I say all the time is language, especially for us, is super important.
Yep.
That we are clear as to what we're seeing. Just because you slap lipstick on a pig does not make the pig mannerable. Right? So we have to be really clear. What are we seeing? What is it called? And just because someone calls it that doesn't mean that we have to buy that. Just because he sees his behavior as leading doesn't mean that we have to afford that title to it.
Yeah.
Right. He is growing and trying to find his way in a lot of ways, like the rest of the couples. But just because they call something shiny and wonderful doesn't mean that we have to accept all that they put in that bubble and call that truth. Right. And I think for us, that's hugely important, so that when we say we want a man to lead, what exactly does that look like? And what does that mean? And are all capable of that, right? Just because the word man is there, right? Women lead, but just because it's woman, does that mean that you just get that leadership title by default? No, there are some characteristics and things that we should look at that and say, and because these things are present, there is a desire to follow your leadership. And if they're not, then there may not be a desire to follow it, because maybe it's not leadership, it's something else. Just saying.
And it's, I was just kind of writing my notes down as well. She was talking, doesn't Nicole, in terms of leadership, and it's quite interesting. So we talk about there are several forms of leadership, like leadership styles, right? So where I'm kind of seeing Otis at the moment is falling more into the kind of autocratic kind of commanding style. So when we talk about autocratic, it's your traditional boss versus employee. And when we talk about commanding, it's more military. So subordinate and general. No one gets to say, the general says it, you got to do it. And I'm kind of seeing him in that area. There's actually nothing wrong with that. But if it's overly done, then what happens is the relationship really suffers, because there is a time and a place for it. If there's a crisis in your relationship, we ain't got time to discuss. There's a crisis literally happening right now. You might need to have a decision done right away. When we get into safety, then we can discuss about being democratic. Or maybe there's a situation where we're trying to level up, develop ourselves in a relationship. That might need a coaching kind of leadership. And as a man specifically, you are almost kind of pushed into this role to kind of find out at what time and in what season do I implement certain leadership styles. Now, all of us have more drawn to certain type of leadership style. I like a more coaching leadership style. That's what I'm more led to. But in a relationship, you're going to be tested and pulled in different areas to actually improve on the other styles, because a relationship requires all of those particular styles to make it work. And so I think for Otis, it's not wrong of him to be autocratic or even commanding, but if you're doing it in the wrong season, the wrong time, your partner will suffer. There is a time and season for certain leadership styles. And I just feel like until he gets a different picture with more information, more knowledge to build up the picture in a different way, he will always see it this way, because maybe that's what he's experienced when he was a kid. Maybe that's what he experienced when he was a teen. Maybe that's what he experienced when he saw parents together. We don't know, but he's seen that image somewhere, and it clearly for him has worked somewhere.
Can I offer this to the conversation?
Flow.
If we go with your thought, that it is autocratic, right? That is not a problem if the person that you're with agrees to that opportunity.
Precisely.
Right? The problem becomes if we are not agreed, we cannot walk together.
Yeah.
Right? So if you're in a democratic society, and someone wants to lead in an autocratic way, the problem is we don't have the same agreement. Right? So what is wonderful about this context of coaching in these dynamics is it is what the two people have decided they want to move with. But when you say you want a partner, but at every decision you want to be autocratic and then call it ease, you're going to have a problem unless they have decided that what they want is ease through your behavior. There's some other people, this is perfect. They want what you want. They see it the way you see it. Their appetite is for what you're selling. Corn dogs for everybody. You are good, right? But if I agree to a steak restaurant and you want to constantly give me corn dogs off of a New York truck, right? The little, I'm from New York. I don't know what they were called, but you know, they have them on the corners. Food trucks now are amazing. But back in the day, that's what they had. We have a problem because our negotiated agreement are not on the same terms. So in relationship, the biggest thing is, what is our negotiated agreement? Just like in other relationships where you have to relate based on the terms of that agreement or not.
Right. And it's just, obviously Charlie is not on the same page, because if you notice, she said there are times they'll have a discussion and he'll say, this discussion is over, we're not talking about this anymore. And she's not okay with that. She's not finished. It doesn't make her feel safe. And that, you know, she is not, the street meat that he is serving is not what she is okay with, which is, you know, why they're there. But this relationship, to me, they are in crisis in a different way, because she seems so hurt and unheard. And it doesn't seem like he also was unheard, because he doesn't see what he's doing to contribute. So I really look forward to seeing their journey, because this is not an uncommon dynamic at all. We hear this play out on social media with, men talking about, oh, women need to be more submissive, and then women saying, I don't, it's this. So this is very on trend for what we see happening in relationships. And, hopefully everyone can kind of take some notes on what you bring to coaching this couple to get to a more healthy place.
I hope so.
There's one last one. I'm going to say one line. He said something really interesting, I think in episode 2 or 1. He said he loves Charlie's strength.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he loves about her. He didn't say that was a quality he mentioned. And I said, strength. Is that what you love about her? And then now it's the very thing that you love about her. It's also the exact same thing that's causing you a thorn in your side. And so I'm asking, is that what you really love? Or
isn't that how it always works, though? A lot of times what we think we're drawn to ends up being the thorn in the relationship for whatever reason. It does seem to go that way a lot. We hear that happen and play out a lot. So that's interesting. I do think that we'll see, Charlie, she's definitely not happy. And I don't think that she's the type of woman that wants to be in an autocratic, or especially it feels even more like a commanding, because if you say, when we're done, that's a command. That's like the military. You shut up and do what I tell you to do. You can't respond. What I say goes. That doesn't, and it's just definitely a different style.
We will get to see how it walks out, because the negotiated agreement is really important. And yes, you at times have to have different roles in your relationship with your children, with your parents, with your significant other. But what is the negotiated agreement? Because that is the role that we are moving towards, future with, right? And the conflict will be if we don't have some level of agreement as to how that plays out. So we'll see.
Well, on that note, we will bring the great conversation to an end. It's been one of those great conversations where we managed to dive deep into each couple, Shay, Alfonso. We got to talk a little bit more about Kenneth and Shorty. And we also spoke quite well as well about, the couple's got in my head now. The couple got in my head.
Who did we say? Shorty, Kenneth, Fonzo,
Otis and Charlie. You know what?
Fonzo and Shay.
It's a scolding that got me there.
I love them. Let me just say this. I think Fonzo and Shay have very similar problems that a lot of people are dealing with right now.
That part.
Right? And I think with tools, they can build something that they both can celebrate. I really, really see the possibility to do that if they're willing to do the work. So
you are a miracle worker, Dr. Nicole, because I was like, everybody needs to break up immediately. Everybody
just go home. Everybody just break up. There's a lot of hope.
You don't have to leave, but you got to go home. Listen, it's been an amazing conversation. I think we've dived very deeply into each couple as well. So audience members, listen, we want you to join us again next week, same time. We want you to come ready to learn, to soak in different perspectives, different views. And also don't forget as well, leave a comment on this particular video. We want to know more about what you think of this episode and what you thought as well about our discussion. Did you have a different point of view? Did you agree? Let us know down below. Make sure you like it, you share, and you subscribe, not only to my channel, but to Own TV's, where we're hosting this. Also to Christal as well, Christal XO. Follow Dr. Nicole also on Insta, and also follow myself, Little Black Book, on YouTube. Listen, we're going to be back here next week with another exciting episode of Conversations. Don't miss it. We appreciate you. Stay locked and stay loaded.
Bye, everybody.